Okay, so let's start. Good, guys. If you want, you can just compile it by yourself because that will give a more confidence to you guys as well. But let me just start. So we'll start with the main method. We have a child. We have a child class, which is a child class of a parent, and the parent is itself a child class of a grandparents. Child C is equal to the new child. We have created an object of a child class, and we are calling a C dot print. When we are calling a C dot print, the C dot print, it will call this method. We have a super dot print. Okay. If the super dot print wasn't there, we would have print the child's print. That would be our answer. Since we have a super dot print, what it should either it can call this and this, so it will print this method, or it will give me an error. So the correct answer would be it will give an error. And if you see, the Java doesn't allow the super dot super. We can only access the grandparents member using the parent. That means we can only allow one super at a time. We do not have a function of a super dot super. Okay, if you have a look at it over here, if instead of writing this, if you have written a super dot print, it will call the parents print. Okay, and if you have written a super dot print inside this print statement, it would have called the grandparents print. Is that clear, guys? So if you see kind of this statement, make sure you mark it as a compiler. Maybe you can make a side note for these, like when should a program give a compile error? Or any doubts, guys? Okay, great. Yeah, I guess this needs more space. This means the printing the data will change by using super, correct? The super is basically what you understand from the super. Super will basically call its parent class method. Okay, whatever is the parent class, but we cannot call the grandparents class at a time. Yes. Any answers? Okay, 10. Okay, final method can't be overridden. Okay. Maybe 20. Okay. Okay, A is equals to 10, so maybe okay. Okay, so let's start. We have given a main method, which is test object is equals to the new test. We have created an object of a test class. Now object dot set 20. We'll go to the set method. It's basically this dot a, whatever we have for the value of a, it will assign to that. So the a value will become 20 and it will set the method. This is a constructor that we are calling. Object dot get and we are calling this method. So the final public here is the twist. If you see this method, this is a final method and which is extending a demo class. Demo class is itself is an abstract class and the abstract class. Okay, may I know what is an abstract class and what do you understand from an abstract class? When can we call a class to be an abstract? Okay, define plus undefined methods. Okay, hiding some details. Okay, correct. Define methods not implemented, no method body. Correct. So, did you ever see an abstract class can have a final method? Because it doesn't make sense, right? You cannot override a final method, and with the abstract class, you have to override it, right? So, with the abstract class, you shouldn't have a final method at all. And at the end, the final method cannot be overridden. Thus, an abstract class can't be a final one. Thus, an abstract function can't be final. So, whenever you are writing an abstract function, it shouldn't be a final one. Correct? So, all of you have given a more or less correct answer because an abstract class should have an abstract keyword in front of a class. There should be an abstract method defined inside the class. Okay, and the method shouldn't be final ones. Abstract means giving an extra layer of security to the program. Correct? Because we are not defining, we are just initializing the methods names over here. We are just defining the name, but we have written the implementation in a different class. Is that clear, guys? Correct. Abstract method have to be defined in the subclass. That's what we did, right? If this class is extending this class, then we have defined these methods. Okay, let's have a look at this. Quickly, easy one. Okay. 20 error. Can abstract be used along with static? You mean the abstract class or a static function? Okay, good. Value of a declared final cannot be changed. No, no, no. You shouldn't have a static function inside an abstract class. Okay, good. So public static void main string arguments, we have defined a variable as a final, I is equal to the 20, I is equal to the 30. We cannot change the value of a final variable, so it will give me a compile time error. I value is assigned twice, final variable may be assigned one, so it will give you a compile time error. Okay, is this a valid way? Okay, and if it is, what should be the answer? Okay. Okay, guys, who else are giving the error? Can tell me what is the error in this program? Okay. Okay, maybe we can quickly try with this because since it's a small one, so maybe I can just write it. Final int I. Okay, I is equal to the 20. Can we just copy this line? Okay, let's see. So we don't have to define it over here. Even if we define it with this, it will never gonna work because we have already initialized the value of that. So there won't be any error in that case. And if we define it like this, the final variable can be assigned only for once. Correct? It's not like you have to initialize at the same time. You can initialize it later, but you have to define it only once. Clear? Yes. So I guess no explanation needed for this. Maybe you can jump to the next one. Guys, please mute yourself. Automatic on. Okay. So, okay, I guess this is the one. Let's see. Okay, see, let's see. Clean late. Okay, clean late. Private and final method can be overlooked. Okay. Error, we can't extend the final method. Okay. Okay. So if I tell you the answer is late, which is this one. Okay, I got your point. So most of you are seeing the final method cannot be overridden. But if you have a look at the first method, which is a private one, right? And if you have a look at the second method, which is the public one. So the private method, actually there is no overriding happened over here at all, right? We just created an object. Okay, when we have a final method, we don't have to write like cleatlet c is equals to new cleatlet. Even if we write new cleatlet, it will automatically create an object for this. And if we call dot flipper, it will call this function itself. So that will give me that answer. If we have a look at the explanation, although a final method cannot be overwritten, that's what most of you guys have already figured out. In this case, the method is private and therefore it's hidden from the other classes. The scope of this function is only inside this class. uh, so the effect is that a new accessible and a method flipper is created. This is nowhere related to this function. This is altogether a different, sorry, this is altogether a different function, and this is altogether a different function. Since the scope of this function is inside only this class, not inside this class. So there is no polymorphism occurs in this example. The method invoked is simply that of a child class and no error occurs. Is that clear? Can we change private to public? Of course, you can. You can change the private to public as well. But if you do change it from private to public, can you guys guess what would gonna happen? Correct. So that we will land on this question, I believe. There was a similar question that we have discussed. If both the methods are public, okay, this is not the one. If both the methods are public stated, and we are calling this method, not this one. Correct. This was the one. So what is the answer? What was the answer for this one? If you guys remember, that's the same case applied for this as well. Correct. Yeah, I guess this was not the one. Yep. So this was the one. So if we have both the methods at the public final void, there won't be any overriding happen and it will just directly call the function itself. But in that case, if you won't have a final method, you won't be able to call in that way. Clear guys? Any doubts? Maybe once I will share the doc with you, you guys can have a look at all the questions all together. So you will have a better understanding for this. Okay, if no doubts, will it come under overriding? No, it won't come under overriding. That's what it's saying, right? If we have a look there, no polymorphism occurs in this example. Correct, but the same function name, but the function itself is restricted to the class, right? This class isn't aware that there is a function exists. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, I not initialize. So will it throw an error or it will directly return me 0? Okay, compile error because the Java doesn't support the garbage value. Is it? Reference is not there. We have a reference variable over here. We have already created a reference variable. New keyword is missing. Correct. New keyword is missing. That I would agree. Okay. Okay, good. So let's start with that. Class test we have, entity we have, class name, public static void main, string argument, system.out.println t.i. So what we exactly we have done is over here. Test t. T is just a reference variable we have. Okay. If till yet we haven't allocated any memory to the t. So the t is just a reference variable and the object referred by the t is not allocated any memory. Since in the Java, we need to allocate memory for each and every non-primitive, whichever. Okay, what do you understand by the non-primitive? Data types or non-primitive objects? Are you guys aware of primitive, non-primitive? What is that? Okay, okay. May I know what are the primitive objects do we have in Java? Okay, good. So int, float, whatever we have, these are the primitive objects. Correct, correct. So in the Java, whatever we have a non-primitive objects, they need to allocate a memory and allocate it into a heap. Heap is basically a data structure which gets called whenever we create an object and which helps in allocating a memory for an object. Since we haven't allocated any memory to that, it will return me a compile time error. If there was a new keyword was returned, it would have compiled successfully. Is that clear, guys? Correct. We have a default value to this, but we don't have here. We have just created a variable to that, right? It's not allocated to memory at all. T is just a reference variable. The issue is with the T, not with the I. Correct. If we have a test T is equals to the new test, T dot new test, and we have returned a T dot I, it would have returned with a 0. Is that clear, guys? Okay, good. Okay, let's do this. If I is static, we can access. Yes, the static variable you can access. Okay, 1121. Okay. Okay. Okay, what will okay, file static. Okay, A11, B21, A11, B21. Okay, good. Some new keyword is not there. Okay, but we have already defined for the object. Okay, maybe we'll discuss. Okay, so we have a class demo int a comma b demo a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20. Okay, we have a print statement over here which basically prints the value of a and b. Let's start with the main function demo object 1 is equals to the new demo. So we have created an object 1, okay, of a demo class, and the object 2 also assigning the value whatever we have for the demo. So here it's a reference variable as well, and we have assigned the same value whatever we have for the object 1. Object 1 dot a plus 1. So the object 1 dot a plus 1. And if we see the value of a was 10. So if we increment the value by 1, it would give me 11. Object b dot object b object 1 dot b plus is equals to 1. It will again return with the value as 21. System.out.println values of object.print. When we call the object.print, this function will definitely get a call. Okay, so the value of a will become 11 and the value of b will become 12. Correct. Object 1 and object 2 will point to the same thing. So the value of object 1 and the object 2 will become 11 and 21. Since we have assigned the value of an object 2 as whatever we have for the object 1. So the assignment of an object 2 to object 1 makes the object 2 a reference to an object 1. Therefore, any change in object 1 will be replaced by the object 2 as well. Is that clear, guys? Yeah, good then. If anyone has doubt, maybe he can ask. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Okay. So it seems all good. Guys, if you guys have any doubt in understanding that any MCQ of an InfoTech previous year or wherever you find out from any of the sources, whatever you have, if you feel free to reach out to me or share the question with me. So last question doubt, okay? Can you repeat that? What is the doubt you have? Or you want to explain again? Okay, object2 dot print. Okay, so the object2 will definitely gonna work same as whatever we have for the object1. What is the value for the object1 dot print? Since we have assigned the value of an object2 to the object1, object2 will behave similar to the object1. So whatever we have for the object1, it will go in the same way. Okay, how exactly are we going to print for the object1? Object1 is an object that we have created from the demo class. Object1.print gonna call this method, which is the print statement. But before that, we have incremented the value by 1. So whatever the value we have initialized over here will get incremented by 1. So the object1.print will call this method and it will be like 11 and 21. So it will print 11 and 21. Is that clear now? Okay, this is basically a constructor that we have created for the demo class. You can access the constructor variable since it's outside the class. So int you have defined over here, and you have initialized the value inside the constructor. This is how a Java program works. We usually define inside the constructor, and when you try to access it, it will call the constructor itself. So whenever you create a new object, the constructor will get invoked automatically. Yesterday we have discussed about that as well. First, we call the static block, and then we call the constructor as well. So whenever a new object is created, we call the constructor and the value gets assigned. Till here, it's an object A, object1 dot A will have the value 10. If you get incremented by 1, it will become 11. Correct? We are doing the same thing, right? Okay, object2 dot B. Correct. That's what we are doing, right? It would be same as an object one. There is no difference in the object one and the object two at all. Is that clear now? Okay. Changes made through the reference variable also reflect in the object. Are you talking about the previous questions? Okay. Let me go back. Changes made through the reference variable. You mean the changes made in base? Correct. It will also reflect because the reference variable itself a new object, right? So there the object two is itself a new. You can call it as the same as an object one. So whatever you are making the changes in the object two will get reflected in the object one as well. Okay, inside first, second. Okay, so should we start? Okay, the first object we have created and we have initialized. We have created two objects, object one and an object two. Object one is basically for the first, object two is basically for the second. Then we have created a reference variable for the first class, that is a reference variable. Reference is equal to the object one. Now the reference itself is an object one, and we are calling a reference dot display. So if we call reference dot display, what it should call? Okay. So if we do it like this, the reference variable will definitely gonna take me to the first class, which we have this for this one. So inside first. Okay, if we call it for the second one, second object two is equal to the new second, and we have created a reference for this one. So it's gonna call the method for this one. So that would be a inside second. So inside first and then inside second. Correct? Pretty straightforward, nothing new in that. If you want to have a look at the explanation, reference is a variable which obtains the reference of an object of a first in class. It calls a display. Then the reference refers to the object of a second class and calls its function display. Yeah, let's have a look at this. You mean dynamic method space to overcome runtime polymorphism? No, there is nothing we have created like this. There was a class, there is an object. The same class and the same object we have created. Right? If you have created an object of a child class and referencing to the child class as well, then definitely it's gonna call the method of a child class itself. Okay. Okay, mean should be in the last. Okay. Okay, let's give it a try. Okay, this is the function we have. Okay, and system.out.println, let's call that function itself. Okay, it says an error in the line number 22. So what could be the error? Okay, because we cannot initialize in that direction. So the error says, sorry, if we have a look at it over here, the Java doesn't support the default argument. So you cannot directly put a default argument and it will not get initialized in this manner. If you need to pass it as a default argument, you need to initialize it over here and then only you will be able to pass. If there is nothing, you can pass it as a zero. Is that clear? So it will give me a compile time error. And it will give the error at this line itself. As this I'm discussed. Okay, let's have a look at this. Even if they, even if it is not initialized, the bot differ by the argument number. Correct. They differ by the argument number as well. But that's what the initialization is done by, right? Because since what they were expecting is if you did not initialize it, it will automatically take the value as zero. That wasn't the case with the Java. That clear? That's what the initialization. Okay, error. Okay. What is the error? May I get the error name as well? If there is an error. Okay, these are the four options we have. A, B, C, D. Okay. Okay, so pretty straightforward question. We have already discussed it that the derived object is equal to the new test. So there is nothing wrong in this line, right? Test is basically a child class which extends a derived class. And there is a protected function we have. So what a protected function will do, which has a more priority, the public or the protected. So if you see at the access modifiers, this is a public and this is a protected. This, it seems to be more restricted in terms of a public. So the public has more priority than the protected. So it will give me a compilation error due to the excess modifiers. The overriding method cannot have a more restrictive excess modifier. Previously, there was a case with the public and the private. Okay. Any doubts, guys? Do let me know. Okay, derived class, test class. Okay. This includes the concept what we have discussed before, as well as what, like, this includes the concept of two questions altogether. Correct. So be careful while answering this. These are the options we have. Okay, ignore the printf. It should be a println itself. So okay, so let's start with that. Okay, we'll start with the main method, public static void main string arguments, derived object is equal to the new test. Object.get details we have called. So we have created an object of a test class, which is basically a derived one. If we call this object.getDetails, it will call this method. Since both the methods aren't static, both the methods are public, as well as we have a same access modifiers as well. So the call will get over here, super dot get details. What a super function will do? Super function will call the parent class method. What is the parent class method we have? So the super will call this class, get details will call this method. Okay, let's say we have three methods over here, then which one gets to be called? So whatever we have written with the super function. So the super function, method, super keyword will call this class, and the get details will call this function, which will print me the derived class. Okay. Then system.out.println test cases. So it will print the test cases after this. So the output should be derived class and the test class. Option B. Any doubts, guys? Yeah, I hope it's clear for everyone. Okay, how test class after super? Which one you are talking about? We don't have a test class over here, right? Okay, this one you are talking about. Okay, this is this the one? Okay, you mean this. Get details. Okay, this one. So the super dot get details, which is it is referring to. If you see, have a look at the super. What does a super does? Super will call its parent class. What is the parent class of this? If you see, the parent class of the text is the derived one. They have just changed the name itself. So the derived is a parent class itself. So it will call the parent class method, which is a get details. Can child class protected method accessed by the parent class? Yes. How does the protected methods can be accessed? And till the time they are in the same package, the protected method can be accessed by the other class as well. That's how the protected and the private are different, and the publics. It's a huge difference between a private, protected, and public. Correct. How is your preparation going on for the other subjects, like for aptitude and the others? No, we cannot write in that manner. On the left hand side, it should be the parent should be given a priority, and the derived itself is a parent one. So yeah, we can do that. For the other case, like if the derived is a parent class, yes, we can do it. If the derived is a child class, we cannot do it. Okay, good. How about for the Java? Did you guys get the practice question as well? Okay. Do let us know if you guys have any doubts in the question, or maybe any previous year Infotiki questions if you found somewhere anywhere from any source. Okay, BBBA. Okay. Okay, so okay, if you guys have a look at it over here, we have created an object of a B class over here. So the new B, and the B is a parent, B is a child class we have. So it should call this method. And the B is equals to new B. So ideally it should call this method, but we have a protected cache over here. We have a protected cache which is initialized with the value B, which is initialized with the value A over here. Okay. And if you see very carefully, we have a get value method over here. We have a get super value method over here. The functions names are itself different. So when we call the a.c, it will call the method of a class, which is a get value, and it will return me a. Since the overriding wouldn't happen over here, why the overriding doesn't happen? Because the concept of the polymorphism for the methods cannot be used over here. There is no function overloading a method in a class A. Correct? So not the same name we have. We have a different names over here. So a.c will return me a dot get value will return me c, which is basically a. B dot get value will again return me a, and the B dot get super value will again return me a. Right? But because it will always go to the base class whatever we have. No, it shouldn't be like that. There can be a different, see, a class can be returned in a different file. If you look at the in the terms of a bigger perspective, these classes are not returned inside the same file, right? These classes can be in the different files as well. This itself is a class. Yep, these questions will be shared. Why not a.c is equals to the b? How can be a.c is equals to the b? Because A is equals to the new B. We have created an object. Since there is no overloading happening, so we have created an object of A class itself. And A dot C, that means we are calling A dot C. So we are calling this one, and it will return me itself A. I know it might look a bit of confusing for you at the first time. A is of B object, correct? A is of B object, but in case when the overloading will happen, if the functions will have the same name, then the things would be different. And if we have a look at it over here, get super value, what it is calling? Super.c. What is a super.c? right? The concept of overloading isn't happening over here. The value, when we are calling the get super value, it is again calling a super.c. And what is a super.c? It will call this base class method, which is a get value, and it will return with this. Here, A is B object, correct? A is a B object. Uh, any doubts, guys? Like, if anyone has doubt, maybe he can ask, or he, she. Correct. Guys have to look at the two things. The very first thing we are calling a super.c over here. So please repeat how A dot C is A. Okay. A dot C, because since we have created an object of a B class. Okay. Since we have created an object of a B class, as well as on the right side, there is no overloading happened at all. Since the overloading doesn't happen at all, so it will call the base class method itself. That means A dot C will again call the base class itself. Just compile it once, and maybe if you want, I can just compile it in front of you guys and can explain it to you in a better way. Okay, when does the overloading happens? What should be the prerequisite condition for overloading? Correct. Same method name and a different arguments, right? Or overriding happens whenever we have a same method name. So is there a case like this? We have a get value, we have a get super value over here. Here no got get value in the B class. Okay, we are calling a super method over here. Okay, for the B dot get value, we are, yes, of course. We are calling the base class method directly. Any other doubts, guys? Maybe from the 18th onward, we can discuss in the next class. Okay, guys, any other doubts? Whatever we have discussed so far? And any other clarification you needed regarding your exams? So maybe you can ask, otherwise we'll wind up. Static inheritance. Okay. Okay, we'll explain it once more. I will take up a few more questions on the inheritance and the static class and the static keyword. We can discuss along with that. So far, I haven't got any perfect site yet, but yeah, I'm taking the content from the YouTube or the Google. So that's what I got from the InfiniQ for the previous year questions, and somewhat they have referring to the InfiniQ questions. Okay, if you guys are good, maybe you guys can drop off. If anyone has doubt, maybe you can put in the chat section. Will we get the questions concept like thread? So far, I haven't seen any, but maybe I can double check on that. I will just go through the syllabus once, or maybe Okay, I will double check and let you know on that. If there is any questions on thread, maybe we can take up those as well. Correct, correct. This PDF will be shared with you guys, or maybe if you guys. Yes, this PDF will be shared. I will ask them to share. I'm not sure about it, but I guess the PDF will be more than enough because whatever we are discussing over here, it's over the PDF. If the super and the subclass have the same variable and a superclass variable, value will be hidden by the subclass. Depends on the situation. How exactly are you calling it? Maybe it would be great if you have some question that you can share. So if you are calling it a superclass method, then of course it will call the parent class. Otherwise, it will call the child. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Maybe we can discuss in the next class whatever the doubts you have and any few more queries if you get, maybe you can clarify that too. TQ concept, you mean the data structure? Probably we will be covering it soon. Yep, we will have this in the training session. Okay, okay, guys. Thank you.